All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our discussion with the Industrial Revolution. So today, real quick, we're going to look at some advancements in science and medicine, and then we're going to dive into the societal impact of the industrialization. All right, so in medicine and science, we are going to have a smallpox vaccine finally being developed. Remember, this is the disease that wiped out hundreds of thousands, millions of Native Americans back when Europeans first arrived in North America. So this is a very big deal. It's developed by a guy named Edward Jenner, and it is the first successful vaccine to be developed. Now, the big impact of this is that the disease basically becomes negligible. People don't fear it anymore. And it's going to lead to other vaccines to be able to be developed through the process that Jenner used. And that picture that you see right there at the bottom up, that is someone suffering from smallpox. It basically, the best description that I can give is think of barnacles that grow on the bottom of a boat in the water. It kind of looks like that. Yeah. All right. Bacteria is finally discovered and it's by Louis Pasteur, a French scientist. And he is going to develop germ theory. And this is how disease is spread through germs and bacteria, viruses, these small microscopic organisms that attack living tissue. Right? This is in the mid 1800s. And yeah, he is discovering this while he's examining alcohol as it is fermenting. And he sees that it is a bacteria that causes like an oxygen release. And that is how like alcohol is formed in these, different concoctions. And he's going to develop the pasteurization process, his last name Pasteur, pasteurization, and it's basically a way to kill off the bad bacteria in liquids and in other things so that it is safer for consumption. All right, now getting into how it is the Industrial Revolution is affecting people society-wise. So impact, populations are increasing, more food's available because of better farming techniques, and populations are increasing in the cities, but standards of living are not increasing for most people. The rich people are getting richer, the poor people are staying where they are or getting more and more broke. Right? Transportation's being improved, things like the steam engine trains have been developed. Urbanization, that is people moving to the cities. Pollution becomes a major thing that is starting to happen. The skies are getting all smoggy, rivers are getting to be all full of chemicals and waste. Education's going to go up. That's a plus. Now, dissatisfaction with working class and their conditions that they are working in because they're very, very unsafe. And the middle class is going to really start to be formed into a larger percentage of people. Now, transportation. Robert Fulton, he invents the steamboat. They become like a key piece of the Mississippi River in North America. And in various other places, you see steamboats. So they're going to start to replace sail ships. Right, transportation of people and goods up and down the rivers in record times. George Stephenson, he's going to invent the steam locomotive, so steam-powered trains. The first one invented was called the rocket. And we're going to see a large, widespread development of railroads going all over the place. Roads are also going to continue to be improved. They're going to have drainage systems being put in. And so now there's not really any mud problems with the roads because they used to be muddy messes. All right. Now, pollution. Yeah, That's just a big issue during this time. The air was not very good to breathe. The water was not safe to drink. Working conditions, average 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. And the factory owners, they wanted to increase production and keep the machines running as long as possible. That's why they had so many hours for their workers to work, and they made it mandatory. They were not clean, they were poorly lit, so you couldn't see the best. So, occasionally someone might lose a finger or a hand. So, and it would not be due to like someone's stupidity, it would be because the machine cut it off. Right? No government programs were in existence to protect the workers. There was no workers' comp. If you got injured on the job, you had to pay for your medical bills yourself, and that was it. Right? Most dangerous conditions were in the coal mines. So you're looking at the mountain communities where they're going into these tunnels, they're taking out these huge chunks of coal. There's explosions going off, there's cave-ins happening, fires break out occasionally, and if there's a coal mine that catches fire, there's no way to extinguish that. It's going to burn forever. Right? Like there's one mountain, I think it's in West Virginia, I forget the name of it, but the mountain is literally smoking because there's been a fire in a coal mine that has been burning there for like right and around 100 years. Right? Now, as you can see here, kids were also a part of the labor force during this time. A lot of boys would be working in the coal mines. Boys and girls would be working in the textile industry, like feeding the yarn spools onto the machines and unjamming machines, losing fingers and hands just like the adults. Right? Middle class. They're going to start to become a part of Great Britain's social structure and a lot of other industrialized nations like the United States, France, Germany, Italy, places like that. Now, the Industrial Revolution leads to an increased demand for raw materials in the Americas, Asia, and Africa. And yeah, you can't have the industrialization without the raw materials because otherwise you can't make anything. And the advancements in technology and science are going to help be able to get access to the raw materials so that you can make more products, more new technology. Now, let's take a look at the work and the labor force. All right. So industry, you can break it down like this: increase in population and new advancements in science, dangerous working conditions, urbanization, standard of living increases, transportation is going to improve, rise of pollution, and yeah, improvements to steel production. And steel is the driving force, really. Now, agricultural economies based on family units, but now because you don't need as many people working the farm, it's switching to industrial economics, and it's going to have a big impact on the structure and function of the family. All right. The first form of factory was the cottage industry. These are basically when you're making products to sell from your house. And it's going to be undone by the factory system where you now have to travel to go to work. All right. So we can break it down using this diagram. So you have town where all the business is going on. And you have a merchant, a salesman. And they're going to start in town. They're going to go to a sheep farmer. They're going to buy wool from the sheep farmer. They're going to go to farm one. They're going to sell some wool there. They're going to sell some wool at farm two. They're going to sell some wool at farm three. And then they're back to town and they've made their product. They've made their sales. They're back there with their money. And along the way, maybe they bought some crops from farm one, sold some of the farm two, got other crops from here. They bring the excess crops that they have to sell or other products that these farmers were making back to town, and they sell it in their shop that they would have. So you're buying and selling along your route and whatever's left over, you're selling at your store. That's the cottage industry. The factory, basically everyone goes to the factory, does their job there, then they go home at the end of the day. That's it. Right. The factories, harsh working conditions. Men are competing with women and children for their jobs because men get paid more than women and children. Women get paid more than children, and children, of course, they just get paid the least amount. Now, child labor became a favorite in certain types of industries, certain types of businesses, like the textile industry especially, and coal mines. To keep the costs low and profits high, they would hire kids to go down into the mines or working with these machines, and yeah, it wouldn't cost them nearly as much as if they were hiring a man or a woman. So another thing is the owners of mines and factories, they had basically like king level ownership and control over the lives of their workers. Right. Impact of the Industrial Revolution on slavery. They were going to see this affecting it as well. So due to a lot of these new inventions, these machines, slave labor, do you think it would increase or decrease? Because of things like the cotton gin, demand for slave labor is actually going to increase. Because it still had to be picked by hand, but now they can process it faster. So we can grow more cotton to process more and make more money. So 1800s, we're going to see a big change happen. The US and Great Britain are actually going to outlaw the slave trade and then eventually slavery. But the slave trade first, so no buying or sell of new slaves from overseas. It's basically whatever's here is it. Right. Some more social effects. Women and children entering the workplace as cheap labor. Introduction of reforms to end child labor are going to happen because, let's face it, kids need a chance to be kids. Expansion of education. They deserve to be educated because they only know how to do this one job, and that is literally all these kids know how to do. They don't know how to read, they don't know how to write, they don't know anything except how to do the one job they were trained to do in the factory. Right? Women's increase their demands for suffrage, the right to vote. That's the early 1900s. 1920 is when they get the right to vote. Right? Labor unions. We're going to start seeing workers start to get organized. They're going to have strikes. They're going to ask for more pay. They're going to want better working conditions, more safety. All right? Lives of workers, including women and children, are going to want to be improved. They're going to work for the rights of bargaining between the laborers and management. So have a more equal deal than what they already have, which is like no deal at all. So they want to be able to negotiate. All right, so the main thing to take away from today is this. The Industrial Revolution placed new demands on the labor of men, women, and children, and workers would eventually organize into labor unions and fight for improved working conditions and workers' rights. That is your key giveaway from today. All right, that is going to do it for today. Tomorrow or next time, we're going to be taking a look at basically the difference between capitalism and communism. And that should be an interesting one. So yeah, make sure that you are back for that.